Is it actually possible to become a dentist in Canada without spending a fortune of 2 years in a degree? The answer is yes, you can. I'm Dr. Kalpesh Patel and welcome back to my channel Dent-is-Tree. From document verification to a total cost of the coaching and exams, today I'm going to break down every dollars that you need to get into this process and get your dental license. So whatever cost I'm going to see in my video, it's all I have estimated in Canadian dollars because the currency exchange keep changing. So whatever country you guys are looking from, you can convert into your currency and see how much does this cost. So the NDEB journey is a massive financial commitment. So the cost I'm going to give you in this video is from minimum to the maximum estimate so that you guys can plan accordingly. So let's get started. Cost of becoming dentist in Canada for international trained dentists. So for 2026, the total investment typically range from 25,000 Canadian dollars to 50,000. So that basically includes all your NDEB equivalency pathway from start to end. So I'm gonna split why I said from 25,000 to 50,000. I have break down all the expenses into 4 major categories. So the first, it's fixed NDEB exam fees. So I've got all the updated exam fees from the official NDEB website. Second, it's pre-processing and the documentation, which includes all your fees for the documentation and whatever process you have to get into the exams. And the third category is preparation courses. So that's a largest variable. I'm going to explain that in detail in coming slides. And the fourth is cost of living and the cost for immigration. So let's start with the first one. It's like a fixed NDEB exam fees for 2026 update. So usually we start with the application fees. It's like 900 Canadian dollar. It's a one-time fees that you have to pay. Once you get approved, then you have to apply for AFK exam, which cost $1,000. Then once you pass AFK, then you have to apply for ACJ exam, which cost $1,350. Once you clear ACJ, then you have to apply for the clinical competencies. That's an NDECC exam. So that cost 6,500 Canadian dollars. So basically, as I have explained in my last video, that NDECC has 2 components. So both the components are supposed to be taken together, but I'm going to explain that in detail when I'm going to make a separate video on NDECC exam. But the 6,500 fees is including both the competencies for clinical exams and situational judgment exam. After that, once you pass that, then you have to apply for a Virtual OSCE, which cost you 1,750 Canadian dollars. So the total comes up, which is like a fixed NDEB fees, comes up as 11,500 Canadian dollars. Then second, we have pre-process and documentation, so which includes, first of all, you have to do a WES evaluation of your degree that usually cost around 240 to 300 Canadian dollars. And then you have to apply for a IELTS academic exam. So it is like an English exam that everyone has to apply before coming into Canada. It usually costs around 300 to 400 Canadian dollars. It's always keep changing. It's a variable, but I have given a range that's going to be within that range. And then after that, you have fees for courier notarization. So it's cumulatively include all the documentation process. It comes up between $150 to $400. So the third one, it's like a preparation courses. This is the largest variable. It depends on what kind of courses you're choosing. There's a lot of coaching institute around Canada which offer the courses for all the exams, but still it makes a lot of difference what kind of courses you're choosing and what courses, academics, or the courses you're taking. So basically for AFK courses, it costs between 5,250 to 10,000. So it's minimum to maximum. So there are some courses they offer you a minimum cost. There are some courses which are very expensive, that goes up to 10,000. For ACJ course, it's cost around 1,500 to 3,600. Compared to AFK course, ACJ course is a little bit less expensive because the format of the exam and the time need for preparation of the exam is different. And after that, you have NDECC skill trainings. So that comes around 8,000 to 20,000 Canadian dollars. So why there's a huge difference in the minimum and the maximum? Because there are a lot of courses get offered in different patterns. So basically you have a choice what courses you want to choose. Basically, if you want to just do clinical training, if you want to do a whole NDECC roadmap, it includes the situational judgment prep, the clinical prep, and those mock exams. So it can be vary from 8,000 Canadian dollars to 20,000. And then next is virtual OSCE. So it can cost between 2,000 Canadian dollars to 3,500. So basically, and the fourth is cost of living and immigration. So basically, whenever you apply to come into Canada, whatever country you're coming from, so you have to do a GIC. It called as Guaranteed Investment Certificate, that almost cost around 20,000 Canadian dollar. So that is basically a minimum requirement for 1 year living expenses. Whenever you apply for a visa, you have to do this as a fixed deposit in Canadian bank that you can use it for yourself. So that's a basic investment. Then monthly living expenses can go around 1,200 to 2,000 Canadian dollar. It depends how your lifestyle is and what are your preferences. So it mostly includes your rent, food, transport. Then the fees for visa and the biometric approximate goes around 200 to like 250 Canadian dollars. And then another cost is for your travels and your flights. So it can go between $1,000 to 1,500 Canadian dollars. So I made a comparison from low versus high cost reality. So if you compare the bare minimum versus with the full prep coaching, so the bare minimum for exams, it's not going to change. If you want to take coaching, it's like a fixed cost. So it's like 11,500 Canadian dollars. Then for administration and the IELTS and those other exam fees going to be same. The only difference you see is with the coachings. So if you take no coaching, if you try to prepare by yourself, it's not going to cost you a single dollar. But if you go with the coaching, it can cost you around between like a 16,000 to 35,000 Canadian dollars. So the total investment, the minimum amount comes up like 12,000 to 13,000. But if you go with the complete coaching, it can cost you around 30,000 to 50,000 Canadian dollars. So that's what my minimum criteria, what I was trying to explain, that lowest you can spend 12,000 and highest you can spend is like 50,000 Canadian dollars. So apart from those four major expenses, there's something else that I have introduced in my last video, which is bridging program after ACJ. So usually that bridging program is 8 to 12 months, which can cost you around 30,000 to 40,000 Canadian dollars if you want to choose this pathway, like after ACJ exam, rather than going to the NDECC pathway. If you choose ACJ after ACJ a bridging program, then it can cost you 30,000 to 40,000 Canadian dollars. And after this, on top of all the cost, if in case you fail any attempt of your exam, then every time you fail, you have to pay a fees again for the next attempt. So there are the limits for the attempts. So for AFK and ACJ, you have 3 attempts. And once you enter to the NDECC, then you don't have any attempts, but you have to clear the NDECC both modules within the 5 years of bracket. And for the international trained dentists who are choosing the path for advanced dental program, which is apart from the NDEB equivalency process, So as I explained, that the exam which you have to give to get into the Canadian universities is EDAT. So EDAT fees, usually it costs around 400 to 500 Canadian dollars, and once you pass that exam, then you have to go through a admission process. You have to go for a bench test, you have to apply for a couple of universities, and then you have to go for an interview. And once you get accepted for any of the advanced dental program for international trained dentists, then usually the tuition fees is around 70,000 to 100,000 Canadian dollars per year. And additional cost for those courses are 10,000 to 20,000 Canadian dollars, which includes the administration fees and the bench test and instrument. So these programs are planned usually from those are like for 2 years to 2.5 years. I know the amount of the cost and the expenses, I said it's a lot and it's very overwhelming, but here you go, it is worth it. So making the initial investment is highly profitable. So as per my understanding and as per my research, the associated dentists in Canada, they start at 150,000 Canadian dollars annually they make as an associate dentist. And if you get into the practice, if you own your own practice, then there is no limit. So basically the question, yes, the initial investment is worth it, but the whole path is not that easy. With the amount of investment you're doing it in, you have to invest your time, you have to invest a lot of effort, and you have to give that time, because it's a lengthy procedure. It takes a lot of courage, it takes a lot of your hard work, and along with that you have to be physically and mentally healthy to complete this process. I hope all the costs are clear now. So the NDEB journey from your country to Canada, it's not just about passing all the exams. It's a very smart investment that you're gonna get an outcome for. So if this breakdown helped you guys, please like and share so that other international trained dentists can find this video helpful. And if you really like to see more videos like that, please subscribe my channel. And if you have any question related to the cost and exam, please drop a comment below. I'll definitely answer your questions and I'll try to make more videos on those topics. Thank you for watching.